How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to be doing oil analysis testing the engine oils of both my recently Bridgeported 13B RX7 and also my recently turbocharged D series Honda Civic. And both cars are quite modified, but they're a typical weekend warrior and occasional track car. And both have done one track day each and about 2,000 kilometers of street driving, which is my usual oil change interval, given that both cars are due back on track in the next month or so. Now, the reason I'm doing this is to get a few answers to my own questions. I want to know if the engine oils are suitable for what I'm doing for these engines. I want to know if my oil change intervals are too frequent, and I also want an idea, and I'm hoping to get some information about how these engines are performing and its general wear. So in this video, we're going to be going through the method of collecting the engine oil. We're going to present the results and then hopefully discuss what to do from here. Let's get into it. Alright, so we've got our oils collected in the flask and I've put in the data on the flask. So interesting thing, actually the RX7 has only done 1500 Ks based off the odometer, and the Civic has done 2000. Something I usually do, it's a bit weird, but I sniff my engine oils. And I've developed a sense of the smell of the oil, and generally gives you an idea of how the engine oil is doing just based off smell. Now the RX7 uses a mineral-based oil. It's a lot more sweet smelling and it does smell a lot more organic. So I'll just crack this open again, give it a whiff, and it's quite sweet. It's quite fragrant, and you know, it actually does smell like it would coming out of a new bottle. So it's only done 1500 Ks, done a track day and some street Ks, and probably not too bad. So this is just based on my subjective thoughts. Now the Civic oil, on the other hand, every time I crack open the oil cap or even drain the oil, I always get the same smell. So Civic runs E85 fuel, so it's an ethanol alcohol based fuel, and once you take a whiff of it, a very strong alcohol flavor. You don't get much of an oil smell anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see, because it's only done 2000 Ks. Now the oil's been draining for the past half an hour, and I don't usually like to leave it sitting empty just in case. So I want to show you what oils I use, and then we might fill both cars up. You guys know I love my Penrite oils, and since day dot with this car, I've been using Penrite's Premium Mineral 15W40, and it's also designed for Mazda RX series engines. Mazda do recommend mineral oils only, and I think part of the reason is this, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is because it has an oil metering pump system. Well, this used to have that system, which injects oil into the intake tract and gets burnt through the engine as a way of lubricating the seals. That's my very simple understanding. I have since removed the OMP because I had a leaking line, and it's not something you want happening, especially on the track. And instead of the factory OMP system, which has been removed, I now run premix in this car. I run an Idemitsu premix, and it's something I'm not sure if I will continue doing, especially because I've found with mineral oils, it just tends to thin out really, really quickly. So yeah, I'm thinking of going synthetic for this engine. And with the Civic, it is no different. I think Penrite should just sponsor me now, but I have invested many bottles of this 10W40 fully synthetic engine oil. And just a quick one, I tend to stick quite closely to the recommendations from the manufacturer. So the RX7, the Civic, the Land Cruiser, I always use the recommended weights. And my thought process is that they have built the engine, they've engineered it to accept a certain weight of oil. And it doesn't make sense, and people often ask me, why are you putting such a lightweight oil into my engine? It doesn't make sense to me to be putting a thicker oil in a space which is not designed for it to go in. So yeah, it doesn't matter the mileage of the engine either. This engine's done probably about 5,000-6,000 Ks. This engine's done close to 300,000 Ks. Based on my personal experience, I can probably recommend running close to the manufacturer's weight. We have a very warm climate in Australia, so we don't really see anything below 5-6 degrees. So I tend to stick to the heavier side of that weight. And yeah, this Civic gets an absolute thrashing for a car which used to make 60 kilowatts and now making 135 kilowatts for the past 6 months, I think, and we've done a lot of track days on it. I'm really surprised that it hasn't blown yet. The reason why I've invested in this particular engine oil is that it's high in zinc. And we know that zinc has really good anti-wearing properties. It's also an anti-rusting agent. And we are running E85 fuel in this Civic. And with E85, we can smell it. It's contaminating the engine oil. And we really want to reduce the risk of there being any damage due to moisture in that engine oil. So, so far it's worked really well. I just want to know if it's, if this is actually working as well as it's meant to. So I'm going to send off both those oil samples tomorrow. I'm going to fill up the engines tonight, and I'll see you guys in a few weeks. It has been a whole year since I filmed that last clip, and a year ago when I sent the samples off, I got the reports back in about a week, and we're finally getting around to presenting the results. So let's start with the Civic. So the Civic produced a sample which smelt and looked like fuel, and the report from this was very surprising. So when you send the sample off, you get a data sheet to come back with the report of the oil. I'll throw this up on the screen. You have the metals, which I guess would show wear and tear of the engine. You have contaminants in the oil, and the physical testing that they've done. It's kind of like a blood test result. So I think it gives you a lot of good information, and it also gives you a little summary of what's happening with the oil. So the result of this test was that it passed. Everything was within normal ranges. Water content acceptable, fuel dilution satisfactory, and viscosity within specified operating range. The only thing they picked up was that the silicon level is more likely due to seal or gasket material, and I think I can explain that. This is how I like to do my oil pans. And that was typical me with the Honda Bond. But just going back to this engine, the mighty D16 has done so well. So I turbocharged this in January 2024. And if you asked me at the time if I thought this would still be alive in June 2025, there would be no thought at all about that. I didn't expect this engine to last this long. It has done 25,000 Ks. It's done about 8+ track days. And I say 8+ because every time we take this car to the track, we double into this car. So Chris and I, we take turns thrashing this car. And over the whole course of time, it has not had a single mechanical fault. And I do think a large part of this is because we are running a good quality oil, and that 10/10 is working really well in this engine. So after I got this report, obviously I was very pleased with the oil. So I went and bought a 20-litre container. And this is what we've been using in the Civic ever since, and I've since extended the service interval to every second track day. So while this oil is super expensive, it's like more than double the price of standard oil, we are servicing this less as well. 20 litres for a D16 will get you about between 5 to 6 oil changes. So when you do the maths, it actually works out quite a lot cheaper, and it's definitely worth it doing it this way. And the mighty D16 lives on. The 10/10 passed the test with flying colors. Now for the bad news for the RX7. So got the test report back, and when I got this test report sent to my email, the technician actually gave me a call because it was that bad. It came back with severe fuel dilution, and I'm just reading off the paper here. Wear levels were within normal acceptable limits. So the good thing is, even though the oil was too thin, there wasn't any abnormal levels of metal in the oil. Massive fuel dilution, viscosity of the oil is low, indicating the fuel is thinning out the engine oil. Fuel percentage by G.C is over 10%, I'm guessing. I'm not sure if that is 10% of the total volume of oil, but that's definitely not a good thing. Just on the viscosity testing, you can see they're tested at 40 degrees and 100 degrees Celsius. I'm guessing that's cold and hot. And you can go and compare that with the data sheet of the oil. When I got the call from the technician, Rob, he let me know that it looks like there is some sort of fuel leaking into the oil and just thinning that oil out. So he suggested that I check the injectors. But you know, the FD is quite a new setup at the time. It has the Injector Dynamics 2600s with the factory primary, I think they're 550s, but I haven't ever known a set of them to fail. Since I bought the RX7, it's 99% of the time a street car, and most of the time I'm just commuting to work, which is only about 15-20 minutes away. I'm never getting the RX7 up to what you would call operating temperature, and we know that oil tends to need to get up to about 90 to 100 degrees for it to start burning off the fuel in the oil. So I watch the gauge like a hawk, and because the car is built to be cool at the track, it really does struggle to warm up on the street. So most of the time I'm getting, honestly, low 70s for my water temperature and 60s to 80s for my oil temp. So that's not going to be enough, and on the street I guess the engine isn't even spinning fast enough to build temperature. So we've got the big V mount, got the low temperature thermostat, and we've got the factory coolers. The car really doesn't see operating temperature too often. So I also spoke to Omar about the tune, and Omar has always said that he likes to add a little bit more fuel in there just to be safe, and especially because I do race the car sometimes. And because the car's been responding really well, there's been nothing wrong with it. I don't really want to change the tune, and I'm happy with the amount of fuel that's in there. Moving forwards, we're going to step it up back to the 1010s, which we know has worked amazingly well on this engine. We are going to be using the 1010's 20W60, so that's quite a lot thicker in viscosity, but we know that as we tested this at 1500 kilometers, and that's just a few tanks of fuel, we know that the thinning out of the fuel is still going to occur with the same type of driving I do, and that will bring the viscosity down to hopefully within normal limits for the FD. We can actually move to the synthetic now as well, because the OMP system has been deleted and we're no longer injecting that oil into the engine. So what did we learn from this exercise? Because I've gone and sent both samples off, I can definitely recommend this, especially if you have some sort of performance enhancing modification to your engine. You really want to know if the engine oil you're putting into the car is doing its job. But even if this video doesn't directly affect you, I mean, you might not have a Civic or an RX7, we know for sure that choosing a good quality oil is very important, and it could potentially save your engine. So that's it for this video, and I hope you found that informative. If you want to learn more about the science behind engine oil viscosities and their relationship with temperature, and also I think engine oil shearing forces, Penrite have a really good resource on the website, and I'll throw the link in the description, so make sure you go and check it out. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.